and another killer top tech tips session with me. And my special guest will be today, George Hawwa from Attention Experts. Now, thank you to everyone at Surf Corp up here in Brisbane who has been looking after me this week. I have been up here with the amazing team at Three Lights looking at cybersecurity up in Brisbane. So anyone who wants to reach out while I'm here, feel free to do so. Comment below. I have the afternoon available. So I'm more than welcome to contact and connect with you while I'm up here. Now, a ton of questions have come through from you all this week, and thank you so much for them. They have been brilliant. I really appreciate them. But the ones that come through over the last few weeks have been around social media. And of course, whilst I love being on social media, I am no social media expert. So, of course, let me introduce, without no further ado, George. Thank you for joining us today. How are you, champion?
Very good. Thanks for having me, Kristof.
Mate, pleasure is all mine. We have certainly had a long-standing relationship in regards to us knowing each other, but also around social media. And some of the questions that came through, look, they're a bit hairy and precarious for me. So I appreciate you making the time to come through. Mate, given that you've got a great history in how to use social media, I thought these questions would be quite relevant for you. But also let's spin them around how the data works, because obviously that's something that we do very well. One of the key questions I had sent across about 5 or 6 times these last few months is, what data does social media keep and how do you extract it? Now, that is a curly question, my friend.
Yeah, well, I guess the long and short, the shortest answer to that is it depends on what platform. Like the Meta platform, for example, has a wide range of data you can extract, but more performance data. While if you look at LinkedIn, for example, you can extract things around audiences a bit more deeper. So you can extract things like occupations and so on. So with Facebook, because they had the data breach back in 2018, what you can extract on people is less than the other platforms, but what you can extract on performance is a lot more than the other platforms. So that's that. The other thing as well with the Facebook platform or the Meta platform, the infrastructure is so much more advanced than the other platforms. They've spent hundreds of billions on building that platform. So the ability to retain data in those platforms around what people are doing online and things like that, it is literally the biggest data aggregator in the world. It has so much information, but we can't extract things on people. We can extract performance and what people are doing, but we can certainly store databases of users within Meta. But with LinkedIn, you can extract a lot more detail about people. Twitter, TikTok and all that, they're still developing their stuff. There's still a lot of years behind.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. I mean, if we talk about forerunners in social media, you obviously know Meta is the one that has been there from the onset. There have been plenty before that. MySpace, goodness gracious me, let me not show my age there, right? And I guess the correlation of that data is, what does that sort of spread look like, and how do you start to use that to your advantage?
Yeah, so when we're looking at a social media campaign, there's really only, keeping it simple is really the key, but there's really only 2 or 3 pieces of data we really look at. It's the basics: your CTR, percentage of click-through rates, your CPM, your cost per 1,000 impressions, and then your results, right? That's the key bits of performance data. Then when it comes to individuals or understanding audiences, then it really comes down to, okay, how do we know the individuals we're getting from these platforms are correct? Now, Facebook doesn't give us the best insight into that. So what we need to look at is performance, and then we look at how deep they're going on websites or the end goal. But on LinkedIn, we can extract a little bit more and go, okay, these are the correct people, or they're not the right people. The other thing that's really good with when we look at data, we're talking about data, but metric or CPM. CPM is a health score. It's a health score of how these platforms look at your campaign, if they trust you or not. And Facebook in particular, or Meta, actually tiers audiences into qualities of audiences. So there's a low quality, medium quality, and high quality audience. So just because you're asking Meta to give you high net worth individuals, for example, or people that like grocery shopping, doesn't mean they're going to give you the best version of that. It really depends on how they see you as a business, or Meta sees you as a business. So the CPM is a good bit of data to show you, if that is like working in your advantage or not. And it's really on how that's trending. If it's trending down, then yes, it is working your advantage. If it's trending up, that means they're working against you. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. Let's separate these through. So obviously you've got the personal aspects for people on social media, but also the organizational or businesses. For the moment, let's try and cut this one down to, right, so we're talking about social media strategies. And when we're talking about that in an organizational space, what are the key metrics or social media data points that we want to look at? Now, you said CPM, and that's click per...
Cost per 1,000 impressions. So M being the Roman numeral for 1,000.
Right. Okay.
And then CTR percentage, which is click-through rate, which is number of clicks versus number of impressions. So that will be expressed as a percentage. So there
Sorry, those data metrics, are they the ones that we would then align to a social media strategy? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's right. They're the main metrics we look at to assess performance. Yeah.
Now, we abstricate those from the platform, and obviously we can do reporting and visualization around that so we can see, as you said, whether or not Facebook or LinkedIn are working against us in that. So the question, I guess, is how do you then collate those data metrics to give you an ROI on what you're doing?
Yeah. So ROI, we've got to define ROI when it comes to marketing, number one, right? ROI, marketing isn't a sales channel. Marketing is a marketing channel. It drives warm and interested traffic to a conversion point. So what we're trying to actually understand is that audiences, if they're arriving at a conversion point, a website, a salesperson, or a cash register, if they're warm enough when they arrive there. So the data that we extract from that is around, okay, we need to look at things like website time. So that's outside of social media. So this is outside the social platforms. So we need to look at website time. Are they spending longer on the website? Are they going deeper into the website? The audiences that we're sending, results, obviously leads, number of leads generated, and how quality are those leads. Generally on Meta, 1 in 5 leads are generally pretty good. Although this year we've seen B2B really struggle a bit with lead gen, but generally 1 in 5 leads are generally pretty good. So that's a good benchmark for that. But lead gen for sales conversion points. And then in-store traffic, if you're a retail business or something like that, a supermarket, you try to bring people in store, then it's really, okay, are we seeing increased foot traffic from correlating to our social media when we started our social media campaign to increase investment with that?
All right, let's take a curly one, and this is the question that we've obviously seen a lot of recently, and I won't refer to anything less than AI in regards to the concept of ChatGPT, right? I mean, we've seen all of a sudden this explosion of what the public understands as AI, which is referred to more commonly than not. It's ChatGPT, which is, to be fair, is nothing more than extended versions of machine learning or ML. But we go back to the core question. This is one that I got very quick recently, is that what are these threats of AI in social media and how do we address them?
Yeah, good one. So with AI, Meta has recently made some very, very clear public statements around its viewpoint on AI, where it can be beneficial and where it can't be beneficial. Where it can be beneficial, they've obviously invested a lot in the metaverse and things like that, and where it can be beneficial in algorithm as well and in improving customer or on-platform experience. Where it isn't beneficial is in areas of content creation. So imagine your social media is all generated by AI now. All content's created by AI. It's not created by people. The whole point of social media is to be social, and you're not really being social when you're absorbing content from AI. So Facebook or Meta have actually invested a lot of money into AI detection now. So AI detection is actually another area that's opened up as a result of AI. They've pledged $14 billion in AI detection investment. Yeah. So that is to protect the actual social media platforms from AI generated content completely taking over those platforms. So yeah, that's where the future of social media and AI is going. One, it's going to improve the algorithm, but two, they're trying to deter it from being used as content or generating content for its platforms.
Okay, in any instance, when we're talking about generation of content for any platform, it's got to be engaging. Obviously, it's got to be relevant, and at that point, you would then create an audience from that. What's the deterrent then for using something like AI to create that content for someone?
Yeah. So Meta did a survey, I think it was last year, and they found that 66% of respondents said that if they found that the content they were receiving, majority of content they were receiving from a particular content platform was majority AI produced, they'll be turned away from that platform. They wouldn't want to interact with that platform. So if people feel as though what they're getting is content not produced by people but by AI, they're going to feel as though they're not going to engage with it or they're not going to treat it as genuine. And we're already seeing, and I guess as a question back to you, we're already seeing with ChatGPT and some of the issues with the AI content generators. There's false information now coming out of it. Just because it's generated by AI doesn't mean it's true. I mean, we're seeing now that they're using false information, or AI is giving false information in content creation with blogger writing, article writing, and stuff like that, and giving things that need to be fact checked, basically. And it can be influenced by whoever's got a say in the algorithm of these AIs, right?
Well, you talk about ingestion, especially when we talk about ChatGPT. So ChatGPT, the free version, is all, it's limited to its data and knowledge based on its time and place when it was stopped from accessing the internet, which is fine. We all relevantly understand that was 2 years past, right? The other thing is, because it's a learning engine, it's consuming data, and it's constantly consuming data that people are putting in it, which means it can also consume biases and false stories. So you can actually ask ChatGPT for a false story about, tell me a little about myself, and then it'll give me this wonderful extricated story. But in so doing, it's cached that information and then therefore keeps it as relevant for its future advance, right? And so to your point, the data that's there is being biased and it's being changed, it's manipulated, and it's continually updating based on what's being asked. Now, ChatGPT 4, which is going to be released for the enterprise, is a very different machine. It's not actually going to be used for sharing. It'll be isolated to individuals and organizations. So at that point, you'll find a lot less biases built into the platform. Data will be more up to date and more relevant. But I mean, there are so many stories of how people have used AI, let's call it, to then go and get information, including some lawyers over in the US, with false information applied to it for precedences, unfortunately, which were found to be untrue. So yeah, it's very poignant, right?
Yeah, it's so great. What's the security of this stuff? Is it?
Right. So the current state, I mean, again, refer back to ChatGPT 3. There is a lot of issues around its security, which is why they have 4 enterprise coming through, which includes things like multi-factor authentication, single sign-on, data at rest, and encryption. And so the next reiteration, which is going to be available to people, but it is a pay per use, right? And this is the thing that people need to understand. Current OpenAI platform is a free open option. The reason they did that is a research article to see how much information they could gather and gain from it. Now, that meant that they've learned from what that's done and moved that across to an enterprise version now. So that's a very different way of engaging. The new version has a lot of security built in, a lot more categories, a lot more, not only data because it's more relevant and it's up to date, but it's also far more secure. So you'll see things like multi-factor turning on in the version 4, especially in the enterprise. But then, the secure protocols behind it have been elevated. And that was the point. It was never meant to be a completely secure platform. It was an open, free platform. And you've got to remember, anything that's free has risks associated with it. You've got to understand that. Don't go putting your source code in, people.
Yeah, I mean, if it's free, it's too good to be true, right? I was thinking that about ChatGPT. I'm like, what's the deal? It's got to be feeding something somewhere, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Mate, the last one we have, which is a really big one, and one that I probably haven't been able to answer very well. Top tips. What are the top tips you can share with us on how to make sure your details are not shared on social media?
Oh, okay. Look, Meta's pretty good. Their security is pretty good. I don't know, you're the expert at cybersecurity, but they're pretty on it. The main things are 2-factor, making sure that you've got everything secure in Business Manager. Your access to Business Managers is only within your team. If any of your employees leave your business, you have to remove them from Meta Business Manager ASAP. And also, we're talking about LinkedIn as well, like LinkedIn Campaign Manager. got to make sure they're removed from these assets as soon as possible. There is an old legacy issue with some of Facebook and Instagram in that if you haven't set up a business manager, because business managers existed now for about 4 or 5 years, but if you haven't set it up and you've just left your Facebook page open and you've just got admin access to it, and an old staff member had admin access, but they owned it, right? Because you might have asked them to create it back in the day. And that person leaves your business, then you've lost the asset if they're not going to be able to give you access after that. So this is another huge risk around your assets. You could have spent thousands of dollars building this asset over time, all your followers, all your databases, everything, and it could just go very quickly, and someone could put random content up if they get access to that. So making sure that you have things in Business Manager, you are the owner of these assets and so on is really important.
Yeah. Okay. One of the other top tips that I like to give to everyone is you can go into those platforms and you can click the button that says "Do not share my details." So both on Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, please, by all means, do that immediately. One of the key factors you must understand is data is shared across multiple platforms. Google does share it with Facebook. There is reciprocating third-party contracts in place. This is also done through other platforms like Microsoft. So LinkedIn is a Microsoft platform, people. Please understand these platforms are free for a reason because they are used with your data to be able to share and create revenue in other streams. So by unticking that, likewise, you can get that on your mobile device. So a lot of apps, I won't mention a specific social media platform, but it's based out of China, can take all of your data from your device. So please, if you're going to use that app, make sure you go in and set all the privacy policy engagements on your actual phone. All right, George, last favorite tips or nuggets of gold that you want to share with the audience?
Oh, well, number one, always communicate. I know the business conditions at the moment aren't the best, but keep communicating, right? There's a really good case study back in the 30s. Kellogg's was an unknown cereal brand, and there was a recession back then, the Great Depression, and they increased their marketing spend while everyone else was decreasing, and they took most of the market share, which they own until today. So keep communicating, build a remarketing audience, create touch points, and build as much touch points as possible. That's what gets you deals at the end of the day, not necessarily just creating nice content and just an organized social media presence. It's touch points that will get you there.
Brilliant. Thank you again for joining me. I really appreciate your insights because God knows I couldn't have given them. But as always, we appreciate all the questions sent through. George and I will be answering questions in the comments below, so feel free to do so. As you know, once the live stream's finished, it'll take about 20 minutes for us to be able to get access to those questions. But any other way you want to contact George, he will be in the comments above as tagged. So feel free to reach out to George and the team at Attention Experts. And as always, we appreciate you sending through your questions and look forward to answering them next week. Thanks again for George for joining me.
No worries, Kristof. Thanks for having me again, and hopefully we can do it again soon.
Mate, look forward to it. And until I see everyone next week, be safe. Remember, there are cyber criminals out there. Think before you click. Have a wonderful weekend. And until next week,